Okay, so let's look at how we can use big data in terms of using security logs in terms of business analytics. So with this, we will typically use unstructured logs gathered from a range of devices, such as from firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and web servers. And then we might use that data in order to ask various questions, such as from the system administrator, how many page not founds are found on the website. Security manager might ask what's the IP address that's causing a denial of service on a web server. Sales manager might ask for how many sales there has been in a given month, and a marketing manager might actually ask what's the success rate on a certain page for follow-through sales. So we can see that the logs that we actually produce for security and for networking are actually extremely useful from a business point of view. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at one type of log. So in this case, this is the log from an Apache web server. So you actually find the IP addresses in there, the date and timestamp, the HTTP request is in there, the response, the response code is in there too, the referrer, the TCP port used, the user agent, and so on. So that can actually be mined for useful information. We'll see how we can actually use that. Okay, so here we have Splunk. So with Splunk we can do just a quick search to see if we have any information in there. Okay, so one thing we can do is we can have a look at the source type, and this will allow us to actually look at the logs that we actually have within the system. Okay, so in this case what we have on the demo site is 3 logs from web servers that take us through roughly a time period here. Okay, from the 11th of March to the 19th of March. Okay, so in there are 39,532 different events, and here is the log of them there. So if we go to smart mode, then the smart mode will automatically mine the logs to be able to split them into different fields. Okay, so in this case we can actually have a look at the client IPs. So this is the total listing for all the data in there. So you can see there's the top host. If we wanted, we could actually go and have a look at these individually. We can then look by time and so on. We can actually have a look at the response codes. So we can see here most of the response codes are 200, which is okay, but there's a 404 code, which means a file not found. Okay, so in this way we can list our data, and then we can go and actually mine the data from there. Okay, so in this case there are 24,866 gets, and then there's 14,666 posts for HTTP requests for our data. Okay, so from that data we can actually mine the information from it. So the first thing we'll do is we'll have a look at the gets. So the gets are caused when someone accesses a page from a URL. The other type that we can get is a post. Okay, so these are all our gets that we've got there. So there are 24,866 gets in there, and these are the gets that we have. Okay, so as we showed, we can then go and mine this information for things like we can actually have a look at the referring domain. Okay, so that we can see here that most of the gets are coming in from Buttercup Games, but there's about 1200 responses coming in from Google and then from Yahoo and also from Bing. Okay, so those are our top referrers for our gets. Okay, so that's useful information. We can actually see that that information is coming in from these referrer sites. Most of them are coming in from our own. And then we can have a look at other things, such as the client IP. So though we can see this host here is generating most of our gets, so it's coming in mostly from them. Okay, so this allows us to be able to parse our log. So as we could see, we can actually quickly look at the top IP addresses, and we can do that by simply searching for get, and then we can actually have a look at our IP addresses from our client one here. And there we are there. Okay, so there's our top addresses. We can see there's a lot of data coming in from this one address here. We can have a look at it as a pie chart if we want, or as an area. Okay, but we can also look at it in terms of a statistic. We can see that we have 651, which is 2.6% of all the get accesses were from this IP address. Okay, so then what we can do is we can have a look at the different HTTP replies that we get, responses. Okay, so the code we're looking for is this one here, 200. There's our 200. Okay, but let's go back to get, and we'll look at our response codes. Okay, in this case it's status, and there is the top 10 values. Okay, so most of them 200s there. There is a 408, which is a timer error, and then we can go through and we can actually have a look at all our codes to see what the response is. But we're quite interested in this 404 because 404 gives us a file not found, which is either that we haven't put a file in a web server or that someone could be fishing for a file. So let's have a look at 404. Okay, so we can see in the search string we've automatically built that get and then status 404. These are our other 404. So there's the peak one there that we had for our 404. Okay, and these are all the requests. And one thing that if we just look through, there's someone trying to find a hidden file. Looks a little bit strange. That's a file not found. And if we want, we could investigate that. That's coming from a Mac OS machine. And so we just have a little look down. Okay, so this is our status 404 that we're looking for there. And then we can have a look to see the main IP addresses which are generating our 404 error. And here we are here. Okay, so again we can click on there. We can very quickly go and see. So this is limit 20. It's given us 20 IP addresses for the client IP address. Okay, so that's the top machine that's generating those statistics. Okay, so then we can drill down to actually look at what that machine has been doing to generate all these things, and there are some strange accesses. Here we have this Anna Nicole. Okay, so that was a request that came in from that machine. And what looks even stranger is the password.pdf file there. So let's have a look at any accesses to password.pdf, and let's see if we can find out who's been accessing that file. Okay, so it's pretty much across the board, but there was a peak here. And let's look at the main machine who's been generating these things, and there was a few responses from each one, but there's some from this machine here. So we can have a look at these. Okay, so you're seeing here each time it's a 404 error, and it's a get. So if we wanted to have a little look to see what the referrer was, we can see that it's coming in from the Buttercup Games site. Okay, so in this way we can actually analyze to mine some information. This was the 404 from that host, and there was the 18 events that were caused, and there was our passwords.pdf. Then when we searched for that gave us the IP addresses which were accessing that passwords.pdf. Okay, so that's interesting from a security point of view, but we can also use this in terms of our business analytics. So now what we can do is that we can search for successful. So if we look at our actions, and so when we look at our post, so when we see post, we can actually see an action. Okay, so when we see an action purchase, so these ones are to do with setting up the cart, but when there is an action that of purchase, it means that the user has actually purchased something. Okay, so let's have a look at a successful purchase. Okay, so when we use Splunk, it should be able to give us some information. And here we go, there's our actions that we can have. So we can have add to cart, so we can have a look. Most of the actions, the majority were for add to cart, purchase or view. Okay, so there's the remove, we could have a look at that there. So let's say we're only interested in the purchasing action. Okay, so a post is caused when the user clicks on one of the items within inside the page. A get is the page being loaded, where a post is where the user will click on a button and it will cause a call to the back-end server. Okay, so this is our purchases here. So you can see overall we've had 5,224 purchases on the site with a successful purchase. If we wanted to see all the non-successful purchases, that's when the system returns back another code. We actually found out that we've had 513 problems with purchases. Okay, so we can actually mine those to be able to find out what actually caused them by having a look at the actual return. And most of them were caused by a 503 error. Okay, so that's status equal to 200 or status equal to not 200 will give us the actual sales that went through or didn't. Okay, so if we go for action again, and we go for purchasing, okay, so now we can actually mine for our purchasing information, and we see we have that there. So the next thing we can do is to look at the different categories that we get. When we look at the purchase, there is a category that goes along with the purchase. We can do that in terms of our category ID. Okay, and there we are. So we can actually see that the strategy games category ID is the highest there, followed by arcade and so on. So we can actually have a look at the visualization of that, and we can have a look at each of the sales as they went through. Okay, so there's the category ID here. Okay, so within the post, the post sends the parameters back through these parameters. So it sends action as a variable name, action add to cart, and then it will actually send in item ID, category, and then the category ID is strategy. So the ampersands will differentiate the variables that are actually passed back into the page, and there's the product ID here. Okay, so we can see these are all the strategy games that have been purchased, and there is the product ID. Okay, so again we could look at each product and how they were sold. Okay, so for this one product, the DBSG-G0, there's the peak date for sales for that actual product. Okay, so it's important that you can read the sales as the response that comes through to actually give you the information that's stored in there. Okay, so from this we can actually determine the total number of sales there has been on the site. Okay, so that's in this case, that's what we have. Next thing we can do is we can have a look at the user agent on the get. Okay, so let's just do get here. And we'll have a look at the user agent. And here are our top values for the user agent. So in this case we see that Mozilla 5.0 and Windows is the top return value here. So closely followed by Safari on an Apple box here. So in this way we can actually determine the web browsers that are actually used on the system. And then we can chart. In this case we can just chart with this string here. Okay, so we're going to chart we're going to have search for Safari, Chrome and Mozilla, and then we're just going to chart that. And here we are. Okay, so that's search for Safari, for Chrome and then for Mozilla. Okay, so you can see how powerful a tool such as Splunk can be to be able to mine into our data. If we can also add lots of other logs, then we can cross-correlate these logs and be able to find things. But an important thing is that we can actually start to use this in terms of us creating a dashboard where we can actually show real-time events coming through. Okay, so here's an example of our dashboard interface. And we'll just create a new dashboard here. And now let's add a panel. Okay, so that's the search that we've just done, and then we can leave that done. And in this way that we can actually create user views so that different users can go in and see different types of dashboards that are relevant for them. Okay, so this is just giving you a quick introduction to using logs for different analysis.